Thank you for joining us this morning. It is Wednesday, 30th of May. Live from Seoul, I'm Shin Se-min. Our top story this morning, one of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's right-hand man is en route to New York City for talks with the U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo as the two sides appear to be closing in on a summit next month in Singapore. Kim Yong-chol's visit comes as multi-layered meetings are taking place in 3 different locations to set the agenda for the summit and the regime's denuclearization. Our Kim Hyo-sun starts us off.
The White House confirmed Tuesday that senior North Korean official Kim Yong-chol is set to meet with U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo this week. This comes after President Trump tweeted that Kim, vice chairman of the North's Workers' Party, is heading to New York City. Seoul-based Yonhap News Agency says Pompeo and Kim will either meet for a day on Wednesday or for 2 days until Thursday. They are expected to discuss the issue of denuclearization and the security of the Kim Jong-un regime. Diplomatic sources say they will have an opportunity to reaffirm their determination for denuclearization and ensuring the security for Kim Jong-un's regime while working on the final coordinations before the leaders of the two countries meet face-to-face. Both Pompeo and Kim Yong-chol are close aides to Trump and Kim Jong-un respectively and have laid the groundwork for a North Korea-U.S. summit. While Pompeo visited the North earlier this month, Kim Yong-chol is the first high-level North Korean official to visit the U.S. in 18 years. Therefore, there is speculation Kim Yong-chol may even meet with President Trump to deliver a letter from the North Korean leader, just as Pompeo met with Kim Jong-un as the special envoy of the U.S. president. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders also said senior Trump administration officials are directly coordinating with their North Korean counterparts in Singapore and the Korean demilitarized zone. Kim Chang-sun, the de facto chief of staff of Kim Jong-un, has reportedly met with Joe Hagan, a White House deputy chief of staff, in Singapore to discuss the specific date and logistics of a North Korea-U.S. summit. This is being carried out simultaneously with the discussions involving the nuclear negotiators from both countries, Sung Kim, the U.S. ambassador to the Philippines, and Choi Sun-hee, the regime's vice foreign minister. Meanwhile, Singapore's presidential palace, also known as the Istana, could host a historic summit. This is according to South Korean newspaper Jungang-ilbo Daily, which quoted unnamed sources as saying it could be the venue, considering the meeting's magnitude and sensitivity. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
The two Koreas have finalized their delegations for the high-level inter-Korean talks that are set for this Friday. Seoul is sending a 5-member delegation led by Unification Minister Cho Myung-kyun that includes the Vice Ministers of Land and Sports. The Vice Minister of the Forest Service could take part as well if the two sides end up discussing forestation projects. Pyongyang's team will have 5 members as well, led by Lee Sun-kwon, the head of the North Korea's Inter-Korean Affairs Committee, and the ministers in charge of railways and sports. Now, this would mark the first round of high-level talks since the Inter-Korean summit back in April, and measures to implement the summit agreement will top the agenda. North Korean state media has revealed that Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov will be visiting Pyongyang soon. It says the visit comes at the invitation of North Korea's Foreign Minister Lee Yong-ho, and it is a return visit to the one that Lee made to Moscow back in April. The agenda is not yet known, but it's likely that they will focus on the progress made toward holding a North Korea-U.S. summit. The talks for making that summit next month a reality are happening around the world in multi-levels. But the topic that will top the agenda at the talks is most likely to be the denuclearization of the North Korean regime. Experts are sharply divided, however, on how long that project might take. Our Park Hee-jun reports.
Views differ about how long it could take for North Korea to denuclearize. Some experts say it could take well over a decade. Professor Siegfried Hecker of Stanford University, who's a former director of the Los Alamos Weapons Laboratory in New Mexico, told the New York Times that the disarmament process would require at least 15 years. According to a roadmap drawn up with his colleagues at Stanford Center for International Security and Cooperation, denuclearization would happen in 3 stages. Step 1 involves halting nuclear tests and all operations at nuclear reactors and related facilities. Step 2 is the dismantling of missiles and nuclear facilities, which will then have to be monitored and inspected. Finally, in the third step, North Korea eliminates its nuclear program and joins the Non-Proliferation Treaty, redirecting its nuclear scientists and engineers to civilian programs. The last step alone would take a decade, meaning a total of more than 15 years. But other experts say the process could end much more quickly if the North is determined to do it.
I think it's possible for North Korea to denuclearize within President Trump's remaining years in office as long as it chooses to, and it's likely to because the US will only ease sanctions and protect the regime when it does.
President Trump has set his own timetable for the North's denuclearization. If North Korea follows through with the plan until it's no longer a threat to the US, it could take maybe 2.5 to 3.5 years.
So rather than the technological issues of nuclear disarmament, the main factor could be North Korea's will and sincerity. Park Hee-jun, Arirang News.
The top diplomats of Japan and North Korea could meet in August if U.S. President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un make progress on Pyongyang's denuclearization during an expected North Korea-U.S. summit next month. Japan's Kyodo News Agency says Tuesday that Tokyo plans to arrange a meeting with Pyongyang in Singapore on the sidelines of the ASEAN Regional Forum scheduled to take place between August 1st and 4th. Citing government sources, Japanese news agency added that Tokyo has already conveyed its intention to arrange talks between Foreign Minister Taro Kono and his North Korean counterpart Lee Yong-ho. The official campaigning period for the June 13th local election kicks off on Thursday. With exactly 2 weeks left until Koreans head to the polls, rival political parties are pulling out all the stops in a bid to woo their voters. Koreans will choose their mayors, governors, chiefs of local councils and education superintendents who will represent them for the next 4 years. It's the first nationwide election under the new Moon Jae-in administration, meaning that the results will serve as a barometer of public sentiment towards the government. The ruling Democratic Party of Korea is seeking a landslide victory pushed up by the high approval rating of the Moon administration and the ruling party, that is. And by-elections will also be held in 12 districts nationwide. A big change is in store for workers here in South Korea. From July 1st, the maximum weekly working hours are going to be slashed as the government looks to free up more jobs and bring the country more in the line with the rest of the OECD. President Moon Jae-in has been outlining the government's rationale for the decision and how it'll be implemented. Our Hwang Ho-jun with more.
A work week shortened from the current 68 hours to 52. That new limit will apply starting July 1st. And the president believes it will bring about positive changes in workers' daily lives.
OECD 국가의 연평균 노동시간보다 300시간 이상 더 많이 일해온 우리 노동자들이 장시간 노동과 과로에서 벗어나 가족과 더 많은 시간을 갖고 저녁이 있는 인간다운 삶을 누리는 계기가 될 것입니다.
At a cabinet meeting on Tuesday, President Moon said shorter working hours will be an opportunity for businesses to find creative ways to be more productive while also freeing up new jobs. He insisted that society will be able to handle the change, including the pay cut that will come with fewer hours and the extra burden on management. That's because the new regulations will be phased in, starting with companies with more than 300 employees. Regarding the recently approved $3.6 billion supplementary budget drawn up to create more jobs for young people and to boost the economy, the South Korean president urged the government to make sure that it's implemented without delay.
다소 늦어졌기 때문에 이제부터라도 청년들과 고용위기 지역 주민이 체감할 수 있도록 추경 사업들을 속도감 있게 진행하는 것이 무엇보다 중요할 것입니다.
Meanwhile, according to a Blue House press release, President Moon and his cabinet approved a bill passed by the legislature to appoint an independent counsel to investigate the political manipulation of online comments, the scandal named after a power blogger going by the handle Drew King. He allegedly rigged the internet comments to sway public opinion, while ruling party officials, including former lawmaker Kim Yong-chol, are said to have covertly endorsed his campaign. Kim has denied the allegations. And the National Assembly passed the act last week. For the past few weeks, President Moon, along with the rest of the world, have been on a diplomatic roller coaster as North Korea and the U.S. go back and forth over their summit plans. But the president's meeting with his cabinet shows the administration is determined not to overlook pressing issues at home. Hong Jun, Arirang News.
The South Korean government is introducing a revised bill on bidding methods as part of efforts to support innovative growth and help create more jobs. The finance ministry says the revision on national contract law will cover all private contracts between manufacturers and government institutions to help purchases of innovative goods and services. And to prevent manufacturers buying low-cost, low-quality goods, the ministry says existing low-cost bidding contracts will be abolished. In addition, companies that create more jobs will be given extra bidding benefits, and the revised bill is expected to be proclaimed and implemented later this year. After declaring the trade war, quote, on hold, the White House says it'll press ahead with tariffs against Chinese goods as the Trump administration tries to gain leverage in its talks with Beijing. The U.S. says it'll impose a 25% tariff on $50 billion worth of Chinese goods containing, quote, industrially significant technology. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
After a second round of talks in Washington earlier this month, the U.S. and China issued a joint statement vowing not to launch a trade war against each other, as Beijing agreed to significantly increase its purchases of American goods and services to reduce its massive trade deficit with the U.S. The statement seemed to draw a line under the prolonged trade spat between the two economic powerhouses, but it seems the two are edging toward a new rift. This, after the U.S. decided on Tuesday that it will impose a hefty 25% tariff on $50 billion worth of Chinese goods containing industrially significant technology. The White House says the final list of covered imports will be announced by June 15th, and the tariffs will be imposed shortly thereafter. They added the products included on the list are related to the Made in China 2025 program, a 2015 initiative promoting China's information technology, robotics, aerospace, marine, rail, auto, power, agriculture, and biomedical industries. Responding to the White House statement, a representative for China's Ministry of Commerce said they were surprised, but at the same time, it was somewhat expected. The official added the move is against the consensus reached by the two sides in Washington, and he stressed China would defend its domestic economy if the U.S. pushes ahead with the plan. The trade tensions began with President Trump imposing tariffs on steel and aluminum imports into the U.S., with China striking back with additional tariffs on 128 U.S. products. How the global economy reacts remains to be seen, but analysts say the U.S. move bound to erode the sense of goodwill that was gradually rising between Washington and Beijing. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Korean boy band BTS continues to make history in the notoriously tough American market. Their single Fake Love has landed at number 10 in the latest Billboard Hot 100. After becoming the first K-pop act to top the Billboard Top 200 chart, BTS is now the first K-pop group to have a top 10 hit in the United States. And they are just the second K-pop act to make it into the top 10, following Psy's Gangnam Style that peaked at number 2 for 7 weeks in 2012, and his follow-up Gentleman that reached number 5 in 2013. Paving the way for a new golden age for K-pop, BTS is knocking down records by the day. But how did this 7-member group go from a local success story to a global sensation seemingly overnight? Other K-pop artists have enjoyed success outside of Korea, but as our Hong Yu reports how it could be different this time.
South Korean boy band BTS set a new K-pop record this week, reaching the top of the Billboard 200. Their new album Love Yourself Tear became the first Korean album to rank first on that US chart. Still, they're not the first K-pop artists to make the Billboard. That title belongs to Wonder Girls, who hit the charts in 2009. And in 2012, Psy of Gangnam Style, Faye reached number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. But the only one to make it to the top is BTS. Not only did they sell the most albums and tracks this week, but for their online activity, they also won Top Social Artist for the second year in a row at the 2018 Billboard Music Awards. This was the first time a South Korean artist has won a Billboard Music Award twice. There are reasons why it was BTS that wrote a new chapter in K-pop history.
Their main difference with other K-pop artists is that BTS made their way to the top step by step, already having a fan base. They won more fans based on their music, and due to that fandom, BTS was able to make it into the US. Language is no longer a limit in the global market.
This was the first time in 12 years an album not in English reached this level. That BTS sings mostly in Korean clearly isn't a problem for their fans.
I love them so much. It's really amazing that they came from a non-big three company, but they can make it to this far, and it's really amazing. It gave so much people hope. So I don't feel like we are fans and idols, but we feel like a big family together.
Their song always includes social issue that many people can relate so much to the song that they sang in the album.
BTS found a way to reach a global audience with their songs and opened a whole new avenue for K-pop. With so much momentum, eyes are on what they'll contribute next to the world of K-pop and beyond. Hong Yu, Arirang News.
And now for a look at stories making headlines around the world. And we start this morning in Belgium. A gunman has killed 3 people in the city of Liège in an attack that is suspected to be terror-related. For more on this and other news around the world, we turn to our Adam at the news center. So Adam, what's the latest?
Well, Simon, 2 of the 3 people killed in Tuesday's attack were female police officers. The assailant reportedly crept up on them with a knife, stabbed them before taking their service weapons and fatally shot them and a bystander who was sitting inside a parked car. He then took 2 women hostage inside a school where he was shot dead by police after an exchange of gunfire. A few officers were injured during that encounter, with one in serious condition. This eyewitness described the scene.
We heard gunshots. Then what happened is that people started screaming. At first, I thought it was firecrackers, but it really was not normal. Then I saw a person with 2 weapons starting to shout Allahu Akbar all over the place. Car stopped, a normal thing. And then he ran towards the school. We saw crowd movements. 5 minutes later, gunshots were heard. Another 5 minutes later, we heard automatic gunfire.
Belgian media, quoting police sources, are naming the gunman as 31-year-old Benjamin Herman, though this is yet to be confirmed. He was reportedly let out from prison on temporary release the day before the attack and is believed to have been radicalized in jail. He had been serving time for drug offences. Local prosecutors are investigating terrorism as one possible motive for Tuesday's attack. He was reported to have been on a radicalization watch list since last year, which has raised questions as to why he was released from jail unsupervised. Belgium remains on alert after a series of jihadist attacks in the country and in neighbouring France, where 130 people were killed in Paris in attacks orchestrated by a Brussels-based cell. Jitters over the political crisis in Italy has spread to Wall Street, with the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones suffering their biggest one-day percentage drop in a month on Tuesday. The Dow fell nearly 1.6% and the S&P 500 was down nearly 1.2%. A failed attempt to form a new government in Italy has raised the prospect of new elections. This could see Eurosceptic parties strengthening their position and further raising concerns over the Eurozone's stability. The plunge on Wall Street came after Italy's FTSE MIB closed nearly 3% lower, with other main markets in Europe shedding well over 1%. Starbucks shut 8,000 of its stores in the United States on Tuesday for an afternoon of racial bias training. 175,000 employees were said to be taking part in the program. The coffee shop giant is trying to rebuild its damaged reputation after 2 black men were arrested in a Philadelphia store for alleged trespassing. Witnesses and protesters have accused Starbucks of racial profiling and have called for a boycott. The racial bias training comes after an apology from the firm's chairman. Howard Schultz noted Tuesday's training was not a solution but a first step in tackling racial profiling. The store closures are estimated to cost Starbucks roughly $20 million in lost sales.
Good morning. Well, I can tell you that today could be the coolest day of the season in most parts, while northern regions will have some sunshine. But southern regions will have some passing showers with 5 to 20 millimeters of rainfall, along with thunderstorms and lightning at times. And when it comes to air quality, Busan and the southeast will have high levels of fine dust all day, while the capital area will see fine dust blowing in from the evening hours. And daily highs will be the same or slightly cooler than Tuesday, topping out at 25 degrees Celsius here in the capital, while Daegu, Daejeon, and Gwangju will make it to 27 degrees this afternoon. With that, let's take a look at the international weather for viewers around the world. So South Korea will have partly sunny skies with passing showers in the southern regions. And North Korea will have another day of unstable weather conditions. Islamabad will remain in the grip of extremely hot weather, with some areas possibly hitting 50 degrees Celsius. Sydney and Melbourne will face a week of wintry temperatures from Wednesday as a sweeping cold front brings a change of season to southeastern Australia. Over in the U.S., subtropical storm Alberto has been downgraded into a subtropical depression, and now the tropical rains are on the way to Michigan and Chicago. As for South America, Bogota and Buenos Aires will be rainy with highs of 18 degrees Celsius. Taking you to Europe, it will be gloomy in London and rainy in Madrid. Lastly, to Africa, more rain is in the forecast in Cape Town, along with scattered thunderstorms later in the day. And that's the weather update for now.
That'll do it for us at the hour on Arirang News. Thanks as always for watching, and goodbye for now.
It began from a nation where the sun rises in the east. Start of a new history. The seeds of peace budded in the hearts of the world. One spirit. One heart. singing of peace. Singing of a greater peace. We hope for peace on the Korean Peninsula.